ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णाप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नाम्ने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we're studying from Canto 10, the Samambonam, chapter 14, Brahma's praise to Lord Krishna, and we have come to verse 34. Yes, we did sort of verse. Some of them had no purpose. Yes. What I want to do today is, if anyone is volunteering to recite verse number 8, and then because the verses 30, 31, and 32 are also very important, if we can just have one volunteer to recite once each. Just recitation is very important, as we'll see now. So if someone can recite the Tatya Anukampam, please. Anyone?
I tried to.
Yes, Madhuri.
तत्रेऽनुकम्पं नु समीक्षमाणो भुञ्जान एवात्मकृतं विपाकं हृद्वागवपुभिर्विदधन्नमस्ते जीवेत यो मुक्तिपदे सदाय भाक्.
Thank you, Madhuri. That's beautiful. So, now this way when we recite, what happens is we of course meditate, and then also it's easy to remember at the time of difficulties or when we're going through some challenges on even normal times. So the verses 30, 31, and 32 again, Brahmaji is showing what we should be aiming at and how we can become fortunate. So you can have a look at the verse 30, 31, 32. But it's nice to just memorize these verses if you can during the week. So if anyone wants to recite verse number 30, please. Any volunteers? Okay.
I can do Prabhuji, but I'm trying to open this.
Sure, that's what I'm doing. So we'll have time.
10, 14, 30.
Yes, please.
तदस्तु मे नाथ सबूरि भागो भवेत्रवान्यात्र तु वा तिरश्याम येनाहमेको अपि भावजनानां भूत्वा निषेवे तव पादपल्लवम्.
Beautiful. Thank you, Madhaji. Anyone for 31 and 32? Or if you want, you can continue, Madhaji, unless someone else is there.
Oh yeah, someone else can. I can continue, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you, Madhaji. Please continue, Madhaji. Yeah.
अहो अहोति धन्या व्रजगौरमण्या स्तन्यामृतं पीतमतीव ते मुदा यासां विभोव वत्सतरात्म जात्मना यत्रेप्यद्यापि न चलं मधव्रा.
30 seconds.
अहो अहो भाग्यम् अहो भाग्यम् अहो भाग्यम् नन्दगोपा व्रजोकसां यन्मित्रं परमानन्दं पूर्ण ब्रह्म सनातनम्. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. So these are some verses where Brahmaji is, requesting Krishna to give him, the life of a devotee, and also he's glorifying the devotees in Vrindavan. There's a very nice verse in the 10th canto which actually says that's the medicine for us in this age. Nivrittatar upagiyamanad bhava aushadhi. This is bhav aushadhi. This is the bhav aushadhi, the medicine for this age. Bhav aushajat shrutra mano bhiramat. Ka uttam shloka gunan badat. Uman virajyeta vina pashugnad. So this verse basically says that we should glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in parampara system. That is conveyed from the spiritual master to the disciple. So we see that these verses are coming to us from Prabhupada through the Guru Parampara. And what happens? That this glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. As we know, ordinary people, they discuss people. This person this, that, this person that, just gossiping around. Gramya Katha, as they say. And as we know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Das Goswami that Gramya Katha na kahibe, Gramya Katha na sunibe. So ordinary people talk about people, good people talk about events. This thing happened, that history happened, this thing happened here. But it says great people discuss wisdom. So people who have got no interest in the false temporary glorification of this material world, they actually relish these verses and the glorification of Srīmad Bhāgavatam in the parampara system. And then this verse says Bhavaushadhi. Bhavaushadhi means the descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. And then the verse ends very, like in a very direct manner, says, therefore, who will not hear the glorification of the Lord except who is a butcher or one who is killing his own self? So one who is killing the animals or is killing their own self, except them, everyone will take pleasure in the glorification of the Lord through the parampara system. So let's, in verse 33, Brahma is, we just recap that Brahma is speaking about himself and Lord Shiva, that how through the senses of the Vrajvasis, they are also drinking the nectar of the honey of the lotus feet of the Lord. We discussed yesterday that we have all presiding deities of all our senses, and then there are presiding deities also in the spiritual world. But the demigods, these are presiding deities in the material world, are the replica of the spiritual prototypes. That there are the spiritual demigods are actually eternal associates of the Lord, and they are Satchidananda also. And the demigods who are in the material world, who are presiding deities of our senses, they are actually the replica or the representatives of those ones in the spiritual world. So verse number 34. Again, a very, very powerful, very interesting, very sweet verse. Let me see the meter. Tadbhuri bhagyam iha Tadbhuri bhagyam iha janma kimapya atvayam yadgo kulepi katamangri rajo abhishekam no yajjevitamnu nikhilam bhagwan mukundas tadhyapi yadpadaraja shruti mrigyameva. No, this is not the meter. Anyway, I will speak the synonym, the word to word. Tat, that, bhuri bhagyam. Again, we saw yesterday that bhuri bhagyam means the greatest good fortune. Brahma is speaking about the bhagya, and even we can consider ourselves as very bhuri bhagyam, that we have got the greatest good fortune of Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada has given us in such a simple manner. Bhuri bhagyam, the greatest good fortune. Iha, here. Janma, the birth. Kim api, any whatsoever. Atvayam, in the forest of Vrindavan, yat, which, Gokule, in Gokul, api, even, katama, of any of the devotees, angri, of the feet, rajaha, by the dust, abhishekam, bathing, yat, whose, jivitam, life, tu, indeed, nikhilam, whole, Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, Lord Mukunda, tu, but, adya api, even until now, yat, whose, padarajaha, dust of the feet, Shruti, by the Vedas, Mrigyam, sought after, eva, certainly. So, does anyone want to volunteer to read the translation and purport, please?
Yes, Prabhu. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take any birth, whatever, in this forest of Gokula and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, the dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Purport? Please go ahead with the purport, Prabhu.
The verse indicates that Lord Brahma desires to take birth even as the smallest blade of grass in the Vrindavan, so that the holy residents of the Lord's abode may walk upon his head and bless him with the dust of their feet. Being realistic, Lord Brahma does not aspire to directly achieve the dust of Lord Krishna's feet. Rather, he aspires for the mercy of the Lord's devotees. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura explains that Brahma is willing to take birth even as a stone in a paved footpath in the Lord's abode. Since Brahma is the creator of the entire universe, we can just imagine the glorious position of the residents of Vrindavana. The Lord's devotees achieve their exalted position by unalloyed devotion and love. One cannot achieve such spiritual opulence by any puffed up material process of personal improvement. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada reveals the mind of Brahma as follows in the bracket, but I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavana. I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavana, so that when the devotees go out, they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. I am just aspiring for a birth in which I will be smeared by dust of devotees' feet. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So again, if we really understand this verse and the purport, it's just so amazing. Brahma, being the supreme engineer of this material world, he's saying with very much certainty that, please allow me to take birth just as a speck of dust. Now, can we think like that? Even though we recite Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadina Kirtanya Sadahari every day, Shikshashtakam, but do we actually really mean it? So here Brahmaji is actually praying to the Lord. And this is, we can see, when we advance in Krishna consciousness, the humility also, becomes more and more and more and more. We know that there are 5 personalities, sometimes they say 6 personalities in Vrindavan. And if you ask for their favor and, please appeal to them that, please, these personalities, please allow me to get the devotion for the Lord. So these personalities are, as we know, First one is Giriraj Govardhan, Gopeshwar Mahadev, Yamuna Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, and Vrajarenu. Also, Purnamashi, sometimes they say is the sixth personality. So, Vrajarenu is such an, because as we know, everyone is a person there. There's a personality of Vrajarenu. And, each and every particle of that Vajrenu is a person trying to serve the Lord. So this is the mood of Vrindavan, that everyone wants to serve the Lord. And when we understand that, yes, Brahma wants to just become a dust, just imagine that. Being a dust is such a humble position to take that, when we only advance in devotional service, then we can take this position. So here, in the purport is explained, the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Brahma is willing to take birth even as a stone in a paved footpath in the Lord's abode. So here, when we see, in devotional service, we always have this apparent contradiction in our lives. On one hand, we are told, to do wonderful things for Prabhupada and for Krishna. But on the other hand, we are supposed to be very humble. A blade of grass, if you see the lawn, if you imagine the lawn, there are so many blades of grass there. The beauty is that from the top, it just looks like a lawn. So if you want to be a part of that lawn, you really need to understand that even though we have, some amazing qualities, maybe better than, others around us, but still we want to be the part of the lawn, just one among many. As we discussed, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, don't try to see God, but act in a way that God wants to see you. And humility, of course, is a very big part of it. So in the lawn, even though the grass looks the same from the top, but as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in the beginning, in the second chapter, he says, we are all individuals. So in the lawn, there's individual grass. So Brahma is saying that actually I want to give up this position of the supreme engineer, of the creator, and of the head of the demigods. But I want to take birth in the outskirts of Vrindavan, not even in Vrindavan. Why? Because in outskirts of Vrindavan, that's again a lower position than being in Vrindavan. That in outskirts of Vrindavan, when the gopis and the gopas are going, the dust of their lotus feet can bathe Brahma's head. So again, Prabhupada reveals Brahma's mind in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that if I'm not so fortunate to take birth in the forest of Vrindavan, Brahma again says, yes, I'm not qualified, I understand. And so should we. And we should understand, even when we are given so much service, we are not qualified, and we should always be asking for mercy. I have a friend, every time we meet each other after a long time, we ask each other, when did you become a beggar last? So then we remind each other that we have to beg every morning when we chant our rounds. Are we begging, or as I say, are we bragging? Are we begging, or are we bragging that, I'm such a nice devotee, I did this service, whatever it is? So we ask each other, when was the last time we begged? So Brahma here is saying, but I'm not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavan. I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavan, so that when the devotees go out, they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. So, forget about being a devotee. Forget about being a devotee's devotee. Brahma is asking that even if I become a little speck of dust or a grass outside the area of Vrindavan, if the devotees are walking, and if their one speck of dust of the lotus feet is bathing my head, I will consider myself very fortunate. Radhanath Maharaj, he says very, very interestingly, he says, when in our lives, when we want to become devotees, in the beginning when we joined the movement, then yes, we are all there. And then, ultimately, everyone tries calling us Prabhu, Prabhu, Prabhu. And after that, we become, initiated, and then we become a Das or Dasi. And then, we want to become Das, Das, Anudas. Das, Das, Anudas. And then we become Das, Sakhirai Das, so Krishna Das, Govinda Das, whatever it is. And then once devotees start calling us Prabhu, then in our minds, Radhanath Maharaj says that we actually compete with Mahaprabhu. We compete with Mahaprabhu. So we become a Das, Das, Anudas, then we become Das, then we become Prabhu, and then we compete with Mahaprabhu. So this is the pride which subtly creeps in when we are advancing in our devotion service. But actually, it should be the other way around. Yesterday, I mentioned that there are 4 ways when we progress in bhakti, we can check our humility. And this verse, if you understand the verse number 34, is actually showing Brahma's humility. That, he's completely forgotten that he is the creator of this material universe. He's completely forgotten. He's just like a little child in front of the Lord, begging for something, which is, in material terms, if you understand, is very, very derogatory. But in spiritual terms, it is very, very advanced. So the 4 aspects of humility when we are progressing in bhakti, the first one is purity and humility. So when we become, when we start, progressing in devotional service, what happens is that we think that, when we advance in devotion, that I have less devotion. It's almost counterintuitive that when we have more of it, we think we have less of it, especially in the case of devotion. And the first reason why this happens is purity. When one progresses in devotional life, purity becomes more and more and more. And as they say, that if you take a glass of very clean, pure water, even a little speck can be easily seen. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mentioning to Swarup Damodar, why he doesn't want to see King Pratap Rudra, that he doesn't want to see a Karmi, because if people know that he has met a Karmi king, it will be like a black spot on a white cloth. It says on a white cloth, when everything is very pure, is completely pure, a little black spot will be seen. So when one progresses in bhakti, with the humility which they have, with the purity which they have, even slightest contamination, it will be very, very obvious, very, very evident. And that's why when devotees are progressing in spiritual life, even slightest contamination they can see, and they feel humbled by that presence of that contamination. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, it says that love for Lord Krishna is very pure, just like the water of Ganges, just like the pure water of Ganges. And that love is an ocean of nectar. So when we have the pure attachment to Krishna, it doesn't conceal any spot. And Chaitanya Charitamrita states that little contamination will be like a spot of ink on a white cloth. So when one becomes advanced, when purity happens, then even little contamination. Right now, we're at a stage where, a lot of contamination is there and little Krishna consciousness is there. But when we progress in bhakti, the reverse will happen. Second one is the immanence of God and humility. That, we can see that when God is so magnanimous, then we feel ourselves very small. Any true devotee will consider himself very insignificant, right? And he will think, I'm like a grass. Countless of individuals are there who are devotees of the Lord. I am just a little insignificant living entity. as Krishna says, that, to Arjun, when after he's described the glories of himself in the 9th and the 10th chapter, he says, "Oh Arjun, what's the point of hearing all this? These magnificence are just a spark of my splendor." So this way, when the devotee, when he progresses in bhakti, and when he realizes that the Lord is such powerful, such magnanimous personality, then we automatically become humbled. This should also happen when we are chanting our rounds. That when we chant our rounds, if you understand that Krishna is supreme, he's so amazingly great, and I am just a little insignificant speck of dust, but I want to get his mercy. So if I become humble, if I beg, then I can get that mercy. The next one is hunger and humility. When we strongly desire something, we actually feel a lack of it, even when we have a substantial amount of it. Like someone who's craving for food, even when he's completely fed, when he's still craving, he still think, I want more. And pure devotion is actually a very, very strong desire to be with and serve God, like how Brahma is doing here. Brahmaji is with Krishna. And so also we know when Srimati Radharani is with Krishna, one of the modes of separation is man, where she thinks that Krishna is now with me, but very soon he'll go away. And even though Krishna is going to stay with her for a long time, she still is afraid that Krishna is going to go away. The hunger of togetherness just doesn't go away. So in the state of pure devotion, we have a strong desire to be with and serve the Lord. And therefore, as when our hunger increases, we naturally feel less and less devotion. This is the sign, of course. And now we can understand theoretically. When I asked for feedback yesterday, one devotee asked a question that how does Brahma know that the satisfaction which Krishna gets from the interaction with the devotees, especially in that 1 year when Brahma had stolen, is greater than all the Vedic sacrifices done so far. So this is the power of love. That when we love someone, we are hungry for love, we want more and more and more. And the last one is that when one progresses in devotional service, the comparison and humility. So when we are comparing and when we are glorifying the devotees around us, we are glorifying the wonderful devotees who are in the parampara, who are our gurus and senior devotees. We can see it is said that we don't compare ourselves to our previous self. Obviously now we have progressed, so we'll think, I've done some progress, so it's great. We feel proud. But we don't compare ourselves to our previous selves or compare our devotion to just anybody. But when we compare ourselves to those more advanced in devotion, then we can understand the humility comes naturally. I remember when in Sydney we went for the 40th anniversary of Radha Gopinath, Charu Prabhu from Salt Lake City, he gave a very nice class. He started that when we feel proud sometimes of any of our qualities, we should immediately compare ourselves with Srila Prabhupada. And when we compare with Srila Prabhupada in any of the qualities, we can understand that he's greater than us by miles in all of our qualities. So these are the 4 things. Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila, it states actually that whenever there's a relationship of love with God, its natural symptom is that the devotee does not think himself a devotee. Instead, he always thinks that he doesn't even have a drop of love for Krishna. So Brahma does the same thing here, that he thinks he doesn't have any devotion. I have no devotion. All I want is just some drop of mercy from the devotees in Vrindavan. So we'll stop here for any reflections, any comments, any questions, and continue with verse 35. One request I want to make, verses 30, 31, and 32 are very important. So if you can memorize during the week and meditate upon these verses, that'll be giving us a lot of benefit. So I stop here. Grantraj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any reflections or comments, questions? Zoom, this is a situation. we can't understand, what is going through the devotees' hearts and minds. So it's a bit tricky.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Just last question or one question. Fourth thing you mentioned about the last fourth thing, eminence of God, hunger and humility,
Mhm.
comparison. What was the first item?
The purity.
And what are they?
So when you see, when you take a glass of pure water, even a little particle of dust you can see in there, or on a white cloth. So that's why when our heart is filled with devotion for the Lord, even little contamination can be shown, and that's why when the devotees see the little contamination, they feel humbled that I don't have any devotion actually compared to the Lord.
The sign of humility. Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Motherji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Any other question or comments? Okay, so we stop here. Thank you everyone for joining this morning. May you have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and Krishna willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Actually, today is in the material world Valentine's Day, and our Valentine is Lord Krishna. So happy spiritual Valentine's Day to everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth-raj Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sakira Prabhu ki jai. Thank you.